Hello, and welcome to Outside the Zeitgeist, an opinion podcast presented by Mook Media. Please be aware that the opinions expressed on this show do not necessarily reflect those of the host platform. Outside the Zeitgeist is funded by people like you, for some reason. And now, here are your hosts, Greg and Charles.
All right, welcome to Outside the Zeitgeist, episode 27, and I am your resident business dope, Charles. Greg, introduce yourself. Greg? Greg's not here. Oh well, guess I'll have to do a show without him. But we do have Red in the studio. Say hello, Red.
Hello, darlings. I've missed you terribly.
I know, we missed you terribly as well, Red. So remember to dislike the video to make sure we all know the feeling is mutual. And subscribe and share and comment so that other people can know about the video and the podcast, so that they can come and give us all their hate comments.
Yeah, so because we're doing this organically, are we not?
Yeah, organically. We're not a GMO.
I'd rather do it orgasmically. Is there an orgasmic model of growing podcast subscriptions?
I think we need a Sibian for that.
Ah.
But cheers.
L'chaim, baby.
And before we get into the nightmare fuel, we have a comment. And this was on our last episode. It said, my dog was my absolute best friend. He helped me through some rough patches. I treated him like a person who was better than most people. I miss that dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, I miss my fur babies. Although, you know, there are a lot of people out there that actually do actually treat other animals decently. But I was watching MXR Plays the other day, and they had this whole video just of just like real dirtbags. And I saw, and one that popped up was this person who had an 11-year-old dog.
Wow. And
was looking for somebody to take it because the dog wasn't fun anymore.
Oh,
it
that's
didn't
not okay.
fetch or do tricks or anything like that. And I'm just like...
People sort of do that to their relatives and popping them into nursing homes, and the, quality and attention you get in a nursing home is highly, highly variable. And even when you're at a good nursing home, you're well advised to show up at least once every other week with, little bribable treats for the staff, like a bunch of fruit or a shitload of cookies, because otherwise your loved one is gonna, languish, and even then there are no guarantees,
Yeah, I've back in the day, so many of my relatives in nursing homes. It was just horrible. I mean, but at the same time, you couldn't really take care of them either. So it's like, what the fuck do you do?
I don't know. I mean, as a person, I wonder, and it is an active question in my mind, that when I become infirm to the point where I will soon lose my ability to make my own decisions and take care of myself, should I just seppuku my ass?
Yeah. Yeah, I think about that too, especially given my physical condition.
Well, it's a little premature in your case, Charles. May I posit that?
Oh, you never know. I might turn whatever tomorrow.
Charles, let me know if you're feeling urgent, because I don't want any bad things to happen to you. Seriously, dog.
So, no.
Are you blowing me off? Uh-oh.
Yeah, I'm blowing you off.
Uh-oh. Listeners, you heard that. Get on his case.
No, I'm fine. It's just I think about when you're disabled and you can't really do certain things anymore. Like I was helping somebody fix his equipment the other day, and I couldn't even, like, he's got a pull string weed whacker, right? A gas power weed whacker with the pull string on it. I couldn't pull the damn pull string to get the weed whacker started. That's how bad my arm is.
Yeah, and, so maybe don't pull that. Just pull yourself.
Well, I try, but that's how bad my arm is.
Okay. Oh, that's why your muscle is becoming more symmetrical. Good for you, Charles. I think this is a good development.
But no, I mean, like I said, just think about that because of, I have the condition that I'm in. So
yeah, I get it. But it's a cost benefit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be careful that you don't have like the overly distortive lens of depression, right?
Oh,
because
yeah.
This is a multivariate type analysis, and you can't be guided by one variable. You have to weigh all of them. But then what that introduces, if it's multivariate, is that then it's also open to interpretation. Is this variable more persuasive than the other? And it's not really a metrosizable question.
Yeah, I mean that's the one thing. Like people really are really easily jump to the whole depression thing. I noticed because I don't know why, but it's I have had bouts of depression, and like I've even talked freely about on the show where I've had
Yeah.
psychosis and whatnot, and all that. But all that's behind me, so
I'm glad to hear that. But here's a question, and P.S.
sure.
People undergoing depression, I'm not minimizing your condition. It's real. Okay? I wonder, are there classes of depression? Meaning that, of course, there's a situational sort, but also I wonder if there's a dispositional sort. And what do I mean by that? Is there such a thing as too much emphasis on the self to sort of like downgrade the overly investing, overly focusing on the self, perhaps a more outward orientation where you are taking exercises to be more useful to others and create value for others can mitigate depression? You couple that with exercise if you're able to do that. I wonder, are we overindulging, pre-narcissistic behavior overly much, pathological pre-narcissistic behavior?
Well, there's causes. I mean, you can attribute causes in the other way, right? Because we have this whole idea of like, oh, well, if you can provide for yourself or provide for other people, you aren't really worth anything, and so on and so forth. I mean, it becomes one of those things that isn't. You can't give a catch-all answer to everybody,
No.
but the one catch-all answer everybody does try to give for everybody is take drugs, and by drugs I mean like
Yeah, those are
antidepressants.
sticky. Those are sticky, and each situation is individual, and everybody should listen to their doctors. We're not presuming to give medical or other advice, but asking the questions of what would the world be like if doctors started out by saying, "Okay, friend," or patient or client or whatever they're called in that situation. Let's first start by taking walks. Let's first start by practicing meditation to kind of get your head out of the contemplating your navel overly much. Okay, let's engage in some productive action, not minimizing the Jordan Peterson-esque value of the exercise of, okay, let's start out little. Let's tidy up your room and organize your base of operations so that you are at the beginnings of better positioning yourself to be able to look more outward. And that is a very delicate, it has to be done very respectfully and gently. But coaxing people out of over self-focus, is that going to cure depression? No, but it might blunt the edges so that the medical interventions can be minimized to try the more addressable behavioral environmental considerations, and then see how far you can get on those mitigations before introducing the more dangerous pharmacopoeia. Stuff like getting your gut to behave better by feeding it better things. So maybe you neutralize a little bit the effect of the gut-brain bad mojo that may be going on. And these are questions. I'm not presuming to tell people, hey, it's your fault. But, what would treatment look like if it took that sort of as a starting approach and then make some progress in that before considering meds?
Yeah, I mean, well, in my case, it goes something like, oh, why are you depressed? Well, I'm in pain 24/7.
Yeah, well, that's a
sounds like
thing.
you have a brain chemistry issue. You need to take some drugs.
I mean, let me ask you. I mean, the pain mitigation business is really hard stuff and has led to a lot of addiction to prescription drugs.
Opiates.
Yup. Thank you, China. Fuck you very much.
Well, not only China, but that's what we had. What a lot of our soldiers are protecting over in Afghanistan is poppy fields.
Yay.
So that the drug companies can bring opiates over here, and I'm sure it's nothing to that whatsoever. But so let's talk really quick. So we've been talking about doing a format change, not sticking to the hour and a half thing that we've been sticking to, which I figured it make it easy for people to digest. People know that the episodes are this long, so. How much it is, but fuck you people. You guys can adapt to us or not.
I don't know, Charles. I think it's useful to take in inputs and consider whether to adapt. So, listeners, I don't give you the fuck you, but I do give you the put it in the comments. And if you're an overly abusive douchebag, fuck you very hard.
Yeah.
In a not pleasant way.
So yeah, I mean that's one thing because we've been trying to do like 45 minutes in the news and 45 minutes of the topic du jour, and and then sometimes like the news just gets to be so much. Like the last episode we did was 3 hours long.
That's a
because,
long time, buddy.
Yeah, well we missed 3 episodes because reasons.
So you're punishing our audience because like we skipped podcasts?
No, I just want to punish our audience in general, and that should be the reason why they come here. They should come here not for entertainment. They should come here to become. They should come here because they want to be punished.
That's why I'm here. That's why I'm here. I'm here to give you a little for real love, just a little.
But with that said, let's get into the nightmare fuel. So the first one isn't really nightmare fuel. I talked in the last episode about Jimmy Dore versus the Jimmy versus the TEYT. I don't think Greg got that when I did that last episode. But do you remember that, Red?
I don't know. What you got?
When I say this, the Jimmy versus the TEYT. Do you remember where that tune
I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, dude.
Do you remember it was in the 90s, the Olympic Games?
Man, in the 90s, I was working 14 hours a day. I had mine plus commute. I had no time to do shit. I totally missed the 90s, and I missed the aughts, working like a dog like that.
Red, I would just like to point out that does not excuse you from not knowing where the line goes, that it goes in the coconut, because the Harry Nilsson song came out in like the 60s or something like that.
I don't fucking know. I was busy being productive and shit.
But so in the Olympics, it was the U.S. It was the U.S. versus the USSR. That was the commercial for the basketball game.
Yeah.
So I don't think Greg got that. Wonder if anybody else picked up on that. But Jimmy Dore is still going at it with TYT. And I said in the last episode
Could you explain TYT for our listeners who may not be as
I'm
cool
pretty
as
sure
you?
Everybody knows who the young turds are.
Yeah, the young turds.
Oh wait, I'm not supposed to do that. I'm not supposed to punch down, on people with lesser audiences.
Oh, burn.
But but Jimmy Dore is still going off on it. Now, one problem I've had with Jimmy Dore over time, over the years, is that he doesn't always properly context his stuff, and so he put out more in his last video, or last stream, or whatever, one of his videos, and he managed to get his hands on another video, and this one the context didn't really support it really well until like the end of the part that he was doing the clip of. So, yeah, and it's the one thing though. Like, if I show something and people don't, people are like, hey, that context doesn't really fit out. I would hope that people would say, hey, you're fucking this up. I don't understand how you get to this point by what you say or what you're showing and whatnot. So, that was just the one thing I wanted to put out. After that, we have Chuck Schumer. How much do you like Chuck Schumer, Red?
I like him as much as a spiky dildo.
Regular dildo or a spiky chin dildo?
The shitty dildo. The dildo you misused.
Well, the shitty dildo can have an alternate meaning.
Proceed with your story, Charles.
So apparently Chuck Schumer, he wants to force a vote on the voting rights bill.
The take away your voting rights bill? Yeah,
well, I mean, here's the thing, right? Because the Congress is doing this voting rights bill, but in the Constitution, the voting is, or the way that states pick electors and whatnot, or states vote for like president and whatnot, is determined by the states.
Precisely. It's a separation of powers and federalism principle.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I would like to think that there would be, plaintiffs out there ready to challenge that in federal courts on those bases and more.
Yeah, and so I don't really understand where this whole voting bill is trying to go. I've only perused it. I haven't really read it in depth, and it seems like, whatever. Some things that is like, okay, and some things are not. I mean, because it could, things going to be abused in either direction, right? But he wants to force the vote, which is interesting because, this relates to Jimmy Dore, because Jimmy Dore did the whole campaign of force the vote on Medicare for all, and he basically outed all the progressives as being, just shills for the establishment. So
yeah.
But now it's like everybody's trying to co-opt this force the vote thing, and it's it's just hilarious, you know. But it goes to show how like all these things just get co-opted. Like the Tea Party, right? The Tea Party started out as one idea, and then it got co-opted into something else. The incels, right? The incel group got started out as one thing, got co-opted to something else, and this happens over and over and over again. And even like you can even talk about like the whole like being woke, right? I would be willing to bet that it started out as a more balanced approach, and then like all these extremists grabbed it.
No, not
and
really. It
took
was
on.
extremist from the start. And I got to say, James Lindsay has an encyclopedic website and a big corpus of videos and lectures to really trace back wokeism to postmodernism to the Frankfurt School. It's been
Okay.
a Marxist exercise that's been in the works for about 100 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a big thing. The Frankfurt School, to give you a very insufficient overview.
That's the only kind of overview we like here.
Oh, excellent! Then I'm in good company. But these were a bunch of Marxist scholars who looked at the world after World War I and World War II, and decided, wow. This Marxist experiment is not going so well. Even in Hungary, we had a communist revolution, and it didn't really hold. The Stalinist revolution in Russia didn't have the outcomes we would have wanted. The proletariat really let us down. They really did not achieve the consciousness that was desired to achieve a Marxist post-state, post-ownership, post-government type revolution. We need to find some other vehicle through which to achieve a revolutionary outcome, right? A communistic revolutionary outcome that does away with the Stalinist integrationalism, right? Or construction of step by step with an interim socialist state. And what the Frankfurt School ultimately concluded, and you need to go to James Lindsay to get the truly encyclopedic view or read his book, Critical Theories, is that they decided, this whole premise of basing Marxism on economic bases really isn't working. So what we need to do is find other bases. And they decided to focus on cultural precepts and the pillars that comprise the culture, things like media, education, law, and others. The family is another pillar to be dismantled, deconstructed. And the idea is to use instead cultural factors such as race to achieve basically a dissolution of the liberal state, the entitlement-based liberal system on which the American system operates, on which the Western world operates.
Right, I thought you were going to give us only a cursory overview.
Well, that for me is cursory, dog.
But, that brings up an interesting point, because I looked at the White House's thing, because you know how we're all domestic terrorists now? So,
oh, yeah.
So, let's see, I will pull this up. So, I'll put the links in the description. This comes from the whitehouse.gov website.
White House the representative or White House the executive branch?
The executive branch.
Okay.
The whitehouse.gov, right? So, those damn commies in the White House, they're so horrible. So this is one thing they describe as domestic violent extremists. Another key component of the threat comes from anti-government or anti-authority violent extremists. The significant component of today's threat includes self-proclaimed militias and militia violent extremists who take steps to violently resist government authority or facilitate the overthrow of the U.S. government based on perceived overreach. Anarchist violent extremists who violently oppose all forms of capitalism, corporate globalism, and governing institutions which they perceive to be harmful to society.
In other words, translation, those who disagree with us, we are deeming to be terrorists, and we're going to operationalize the vast resources of the federal government to cap yo ass.
The funny part for me is, man, these commies want to prevent capitalism. This doesn't fit in my narrative.
Well, when you take the Marxist revolution and you move it away from economic bases into cultural bases, then it makes sense, right? That way you can have, how did the Chinese explain it? It's Chinese communism, it's communism and Marxism with Chinese characteristic.
Mm-hmm.
Translation, yeah, we're going to operate capitalist style elements in our system to make money because our prior cultural revolution based on economic Marxism was failing, but we're going to still keep all the nice totalitarian features that we like. So yeah, let's go.
Well, yeah, I mean the whole thing with that is, as I always point out, is like these words, they don't really mean anything, especially not what people say they mean.
That basically amounts to what First Amendment? If you disagree with us, we're terming you a criminal, and
Yeah.
here are the bases on which you will be termed a criminal. You criminal.
Well, I mean, I particularly find the idea of not only capitalism but corporate globalization, in the description there. That's interesting. Um,
Well, this is the globalist world order is really shook up, and
mhm.
and the whole Rona business really accelerated its progress towards towards further breaking down,
I mean,
because
V for Vendetta has no
suddenly
relation to
nations
reality.
discovered, oh wow, this border business really does have value. Eventually, the French said, wow, it's really getting on our nerves that people are getting decapitated and our markets are getting run over with trucks with crazy people driving them.
Hmm. So in reference to a domestic terrorist and whatnot. So here's the other thing I found, another link in the description from whitehouse.gov. Under federal law, domestic terrorism is defined as activities that involve acts dangerous to human life that are violation of the criminal laws of the United States or of any state, appear to be intended to intimidate or coerce a civilian population.
Appear, which is subject to interpretation,
Mm-hmm.
such as ideological interpretation.
Right. I mean, it's the whole what's it called? We know it when we see it thing. To influence the policy, to steal from Leona K, because she was pointing that out in some laws last week. To influence the policy of government by intimidation or coercion, or to affect the conduct of the government by mass destruction, assassination, kidnapping, and occur primarily within the territorial jurisdiction of the United States. So, I mean, it doesn't have to actually be terrorism. It just has to.
It
If
has
we
to
feel it is,
feel that way. It's creating a national safe space for the persecution of those who dissent.
Yeah. Speaking of persecution.
Cultural revolution much, motherfucker?
Speaking of persecution, so the Gerhard case. Just a quick refresher on that. This is the kid that was bringing AR-15 to college. He locked it away as required by the school rules, but he posted a Snapchat that said, "I'm going to bring this to school and watch the snowflakes melt." And by melt, I mean snow or something like that. So there was an interlocutory appeal on the case, and there was these three judges. And I talked before about listening to these judges talk, and I was just like, "What the fuck?" And then they came out with the decision, and they ruled against the appeal. And the wording, the things they said in this appeal reminded me of stuff I would hear when I was in the cracker factory. I mean, it just did not make sense because
Like?
they said that if following the law, right? And if you read the relevant law, it says that the requirements for something to be considered a threat has to be that it is directed at somebody and that is threatening harm in one way or another. Which I'm gonna bring this to school and watch the snowflakes melt does not do either of. But
Feelings!
but
Feelings!
in their decision, they said because it could be interpreted as a threat, that it what's it called? That it violates this law.
We know that sort of gets to, again, to this postmodernist thinking of considering feelings more important than facts, right?
These people are insane.
They are insane.
They are
Correct.
insane.
It's institutionalizing this form of insanity, right?
Yeah,
And
these judges are insane. It's the same behavior I saw from when I was in the cracker factory, like I said. But that's how it is. And the insane psychopaths are the ones that seek power and try to get in positions of power. That's the very nature of. Oh, I just want to go and fix things for everybody. No.
Libertarian, liberty-minded, liberal values pertain to live and let live under the law, right? And equality under the law. This is precisely what these movements. Oh shit! What these movements seek to upend. And we need to make sure, like the parents who are fighting critical race theory in the school districts, we need to call this stuff out where we find it and challenge it. It's no longer the case that we can wait for somebody else to do it. It's upon each one of us. I had an interesting conversation with the HR person at my company, and I was asking the question, what happens to the reasonable person standard? Is it the case that we are going to be defaulting to the most fragile advocate activist standard? Because if we're going to go chasing after everybody's least offense to the point where only one person's offense is enough to upend an entire system, what happens to the reasonable person standard, Charles?
I have no clue. And
well, the answer is that they would say, I imagine, that there should not be a reasonable person standard because each person has their own identitarian viewpoint, right?
Yeah, I mean, trying to find objectivity in the world of subjectivity, and people just say, nah, fuck it, I'm gonna make everybody else live how I want them to live.
Exactly. That's why when they say deconstruction, it means destruction, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's really, and then at the same time, the end of one thing is the beginning of the other. Destruction of one thing is the creation of another, and so on and so forth.
But is there, for instance, there's no creation. For instance, take this, defund the police movement. Well, what is your proposal? Oh, we need to rethink and reinvent. We need to reimagine.
Let's get Lone Star Security.
Great. So what is your proposal under that reinvention and reimagination? Oh, we don't know. There is no plan. There is no way to define what comes next. The plan is not to have a next phase. It's the constant devolution and destruction downward spiral. Mm-hmm. It's sort of like in a weird religious way to hasten the coming of post-history where we are in a communist utopia.
Well, I mean, that's the one thing. Like, people make this stupid argument saying the slippery slope is a fallacy. No, it's not a fallacy because it happens when people don't consider gaps.
Exactly. It happens when the inertia, objects at rest or at motion, will stay at motion until they're acted upon by an outside force.
Right.
We need to be that outside force that says, wait a minute, this shit isn't making sense. It's not constructive, and it sets us back 50 plus years. We fought a civil war to get on the right direction. It's a continual work in progress, understood, but this is the wrong direction, and we need to be able to say no with conviction more consistently to all this crazy radical bullshit.
Yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, the reason why these situations come around is because people don't want to look past their own nose and just like, oh, I just want to do what I want and make other people do what I want.
Well, in part because it's easy to just get along and not lose friends and not raise a flap.
Friends are overrated.
Or people genuinely are busy, working and taking care of their kids and whatnot. But we're going to have to lift our heads to confront and combat this. And the beautiful thing is that when you begin to challenge these ideas and really air them out, it's so quickly, so apparent that it's so full of shit that it falls under its own weight of absurdity.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the one thing I say is the one thing that people should be afraid of the most is the things that they believe in, because the more they believe in something, the less likely they are to question it. And that goes with all these narratives that everybody's trying to shove down each other's throats about this, that, and the other thing, because they're all full of shit. I mean, sure, we can have the arguments again. Let's have the discussion again. I'm always up for having the discussions again, but to not have the discussion and just force this thing onto everybody else because my feels, that's reductive.
I have to cite Thomas Sowell, and this is a direct quote from this American treasure of a gentleman. I've often said that there are three questions that would destroy most of the arguments on the left. The first is, compared to what? The second is, at what cost? And the third is, what hard evidence do you have? With those three questions, you can dismantle the asserted dismantling.
Yeah, I mean, you could do that with anybody, right? And that's not just a left-right thing. It's like I tell my students, you pay attention to what's being said and how it's being said and what's not being said. And then you can make almost anybody's statement fall apart by continually asking two questions, how and why.
Well, Democrats who are out there, look, you're Americans, and CRT is wrecking your shit. CRT is anti-liberalism, okay, which is what we as Americans are all for, liberty, and also, the left-leaning branch of our American unity, our American nation. You are needed, and you are needed to stand up for those liberal values. Come on, friends, giddy up.
Well, I mean, the whole thing, it's what I notice is that things don't progress forward when any one extreme is getting its way.
Yes.
Things progress forward when both extremes argue all their points out and then find a compromise.
The Church of the Subgenius had this brilliant cartoon where the subgs are in the middle, picking the pockets of the extreme left and the extreme right, who are arranged along one big circle jerk. And
I like
the
circle
extreme,
jerks.
I know, and the extreme left is is looking in the mirror and finding the extreme right. So it kind of doesn't make sense because I think it was.
Well, that's like I did this image a while ago, and I called it the circle of politics, right?
Yes.
So at the bottom you have like this blending, this purple color, and that's democracy. And then on one side you have on the left and right you have both sides, but on the top you have fascism, and that's like the extreme differences of colors.
When the CRT people are saying the same thing that white supremacists are saying, that's telling you something. And here's the thing: what you don't want to do. Remember that this country is still 67% quote unquote white, right? Plus the 18% Hispanics, many of whom don't buy into this CRT bullshit.
Or like to be called Latinx.
That nobody buys that shit. So if a portion of the 12.7% of our population who is black, and it's only a portion, right? And I would like to think that it's a small portion. I think it's a small portion. But these crazy people of whatever race who buy into this craziness, do you really want to push this anti-white narrative? This anti-racism narrative that accuses all white people of being racist? Do you really want to activate the big majority of people in our country to start thinking in racial terms? Do you really think that's going to help the cause of advancing all Americans, regardless of race or creed, into further prosperity? You know?
Like I said, I feel like I'm living in a shitty version of the 1960s, but with better technology. And
it's like people who had a choice a long time ago between having all them nice things or freedom. Of course, they chose comfort.
And that's what a lot of this what's in the zeitgeist now is all about, right? It's the at the moment comfort for freedoms later, and that's how it's been for going on 2 decades now, really.
Tree of Liberty, dog. A republic if you can keep it.
Yeah.
It was a challenge.
But speaking of freedom and whatnot, because Britney Spears has been in the news lately.
Isn't that interesting? She's basically been deemed incompetent to manage herself as a person.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, man, her whole life has been taken away.
Yeah, and and the reason why I bring this up is because like I remember back in the day when Macaulay Culkin, and he had to fight against his parents because they were trying to take all of his money, and this whole narrative that some people have this narrative, family is so important, you gotta stick with your family, but then shit like this happens, right? Now I don't know Britney Spears. I'd be interested in talking to Britney Spears and finding out if she's mentally capable or not.
Well,
if
you're
I
not
ever,
a diagnostician, but just from a layperson perspective.
Yeah, fuck that. I've done my own research on things.
Oh, okay, Dr. Charles.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, just because I haven't gone to a school doesn't mean I'm not read up on
No,
shit.
that's not what I'm saying at all. That's not at all what I'm saying.
I know. But I'd be interested in hearing things more from a perspective outside of like what appears in the courts and the news and everything like that. But it's this whole thing. It's I know better than you, so I'm going to control your life, and that's why I bring Britney Spears into this conversation because it's the same thing with what's in society now with this. Between the doom spell and the racial tensions.
Well, can I throw another complication into this?
Yay, more complications.
Yay! Because think about it. There's a huge and continuing to grow homeless problem.
Oh yeah.
And when these individuals are offered shelter and housing, the answer is no thanks. I like the tent in the street because then I can do what I want. I can pop the pills I want. I can smoke what I want. Mm-hmm. It's a drug addiction issue.
For some people,
it's frequently at hand, if not also the mental health problem, mm-hmm. right? So I mean, is there some shadow of that kind of a conservatorship that needs to be exercised over a portion of the homeless population? Because yes, there are those people who have hit a hard time. They need a leg up so they can, reconstruct their lives so that they can be self-sufficient, productive people. They just need a temporary hand up to kind of get them through a rough patch versus the hardcore, I like life on the streets because it gives me the freedom to dope up, pill up, smoke up as I please.
Well, I mean, there's more to it than that.
Of course there is.
And this goes back to like the whole mental health thing, right? Because you have these narratives, and I was actually writing to somebody else about this, right? Because you have this whole narrative that if you can't provide for other people or you can't provide for yourself, that you're somehow worthless, and people believe that, right?
Wait, could you repeat that? What?
If you can't provide for somebody else or you can't provide for yourself, that you're somehow worthless, there's something wrong with you.
Well, there may be something wrong with you for the moment, and for a segment of the population, they just need a leg up so they can get on their feet again. Well, so that's not worthlessness.
Well, no, but that's a narrative we hear a lot, right, in society. It's like, oh, you get what you deserve in life out of your ability to work and this, that, and the other thing, and that's something that affects people mentally.
Well, here's the kicker: the average IQ is designed to sort of land at 100. Where that's the median, where half the population is smarter than that and half the population is not. At about IQ 80 and below, people are effectively totally incompetent, meaning that not even able to follow directions, just not able at all to function in any sensible way that would lead to self-sufficiency. So that would tend to indicate, under Pareto distribution, that roughly 15 to 20% of the population simply cannot. And what are we going to do? We're going to throw these people out? We can't let that happen, right?
Right. Yeah, I mean,
and for whatever reason, whether it be a cognitive inability or some sort of a disability that expressed later, right?
Well, I mean, I'm a veteran.
For whatever reason.
I'm a veteran, and that's one thing you hear a lot about veterans. I mean, I guess I'm one of the lucky ones, considering that I got a disability to take care, that I can take care of myself. But you have all these other veterans that have had, that have been worse situations than me. I mean, my situation is, I got injured in boot camp, and initially in boot camp, and then in training, and that was really fucked me up. And then I went on the submarine, and I couldn't hack it, and that's my situation. But you got guys that went to combat, and they're all kinds of fucked up, and they're in worse situations than me, and they're out on the fucking streets. I mean, what fucking sense does that make?
None at all, whatever. But it kind of reminds me, and I know I'm going a little bit off topic, Charles, that apparently, and I do not know much about this, and if you commenters know more about this, let me know. Joe Rogan and also even Jordan Peterson and other podcasters are having more conversations about the value of microdosing certain types of LSD. A couple of treatments can help people pretty much shake post-traumatic stress disorder conditions.
Well, yeah, and you have, I mean, even weed will help with that stuff,
What'd you
but
say?
weed will help with that stuff too. But
Medicinal.
but then you get into the question of, you have the whole we happy few situation where, and
What does that mean? We happy few
so we
situation.
happy few is a game, and the whole premise behind the society on this game is where if you're not happy by taking, if you're not happy, you have to take drugs to be happy. And this is one thing that's not too far from society as is, because in my life experiences, I've always experienced this kind of cult of the happy, where if you're not happy, something's wrong with you. You're obviously
That's so
depressed.
humorous. But Charles, that's being challenged now because under the postmodernist view, if you're not unhappy, there is something with you, and doing the work is to keep yourself in a state of not happy, because by not being happy, you're happy.
Yeah, I mean, it's all stupid. I mean, I've always just searched my life for contentment, and everybody always wanted to like rain on my parade, just for some stupid bullshit narrative.
Happy, contentment, these are transient states, and we should enjoy them when we experience them and find ways to memorialize them so that we can visit those moments again in photographs or diary entries or, whatever works for you. But the datedness, that's why there's a need for meaning, because you need to have something to get you through from a day-to-day basis to what are you devoting your life. And now with these lockdowns, a lot of people have paid a lot of they've been forced to pay attention to some of these questions. And I read an interesting article that forecasted that north of 40% of people who have jobs will be looking to change their jobs, a portion of whom will be opening businesses, because they've had sort of like this forced timeout to rethink, well, where do I derive meaning? What do I want to do? Do I want to keep showing up at this job thing that I've been doing for a while? It's not so hot,
Well, one group of people that might be having to change jobs now are all the women who make a living off of OnlyFans, because apparently OnlyFans decided to change their terms of service overnight.
Oh, what did they do?
Well, now they're not so happy about all the
thoughts.
Yeah, the women showing off their bodies, which I don't know is going to happen to that
what's going to
Cash Me
happen to my
Outside girl.
account?
What's going to happen to that Cash Me Outside girl? I don't know either. So, it in Red's account and so forth. But,
oh my God!
But the one thing that my first thought coming to approaching this topic is the whole Puritanism idea, right? Because sex work is a thing, but at the same time, these women are going to flood the market with sex work. This is where people have like that whole free market idea, right? And you have waves of things going in one way or the other, and realistically, OnlyFans changing their policy, I don't see how it really benefits them.
Are they bending the knee?
I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, if it's counter to their business model and revenue stream, what are they doing? Closing out the thoughts.
I mean, I guess,
truthfully, the so-called sex work, yeah, there's a sex part of it, but part of it is also, fake companionship, because part of the appeal of these accounts is to give the illusion of a relationship with the person paying, not having to put in the work of a relationship, not having to put in the work of being interesting or attentive. It's just getting the illusion of benefits of a relationship without putting in the work. And for some people, that's sort of the only companionship they get.
Yeah, I mean, people, you have people that want companionship or feel they need companionship and whatnot. I mean,
we all need companionship at some level, Charles.
I don't. Fuck you, people. The one thing I think they're trying to do is they're trying to attract more wholesome content, but wholesome content doesn't sell. I mean, it's the same thing, and this is a topic I'm going to talk about in the future. I've got a future episode reserved for this, but the media, right, the news and whatnot, the stuff that doesn't sell. But you're right. You have people that are looking for relationships and whatnot, and which is why you still have things like Tinder that are still going. And Tinder recently, here, I'll punch this up for you people in red. You can turn around to see it.
Turn around.
And so this is a new sticker that Tinder is allowing people to put on their profiles. It says, add a sticker to your profile to show your support for the COVID-19 vaccine and get a super like on us. So you're only allowed one super like a day. They're giving a free one, I guess. Ready to get vaxxed? Visit our vaccine center to find a vaccination site near you. The vaccinated sticker is a self-reported and not independently verified by Tinder.
Dicker. I think that's more apt.
We can't guarantee that a member is vaccinated or can't transmit the COVID-19 virus. Holy shit. So, you know what I do when I see this? Left.
Oh my God. Swipe left.
I mean, not that I'm, I point out that I'm not really seeking, but it is fun to go there and look and see what people are claiming to look for and this, that, and the other thing. But, it's this whole idea, right? So, like we talk about, like people being like organized, but at the same time you have the Milgram effect, right? People observing another party, saying this is the authority. I'm going to follow that party that I view as an authority, and Tinder
Man,
falling
that is
in line.
deep throating the leftist state.
Well, you get into any group, you'll deep throat a bunch of bullshit, but. It's just hilarious how you have all these things that are pushing the doom spell, but at the same time, the FDA came out recently and they said they finally put out a warning about people getting health concerns or heart problems.
Adolescents even.
Yeah. Adolescents.
With no prior indication or condition.
Mm-hmm. Now... and they said that it comes after the second one, which is referring specifically to the Moderna and Pfizer one. By the way, I believe 9 new billionaires were created, primarily out of the Moderna and Pfizer vaccinations. That has nothing to do with anything, I'm sure. But this is interesting because, like I've spoken before about the mRNA technology in general. I'd be interested in learning more and seeing why this is a thing.
And if there are any listeners out there who are knowledgeable, out yourselves. We want to hear you in the comments. Or at least I do. I don't know about Gregory and Charles.
I mean, I'm not sure how it would really play out. I mean, it would be specific to what's in the mRNA itself. But yeah, this is a very interesting one, I find. So... I don't really know what to make of this. The heart problems and so forth. It's just... I mean, I knew there would be problems with the mRNA technology in general, but
because it's new. It's new. We're not experienced with it. It doesn't have, the history. Yeah, that's right. Penicillin really wasn't tested, but we've been using it for north of 100 years. So yeah, we kind of have a track record and we know what to expect. We have no such history with this. We're building the history now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't feel like being a test subject. I've got too many things already wrong with my body. But I mean, the one thing I can think of is that the mRNA is getting the heart muscles to produce proteins that are contradictory to the heart muscles. I don't know, possibly something that's interfering with the sinusoidal or God, I can't remember the name of the 2 electric nodes that make the heart beat. Sinusoidal node, and I can't remember the other one.
It doesn't matter, Charles.
Yeah, I like to remember these things because reasons, but...
Sure thing, Dr. Charles.
But, hey, this whole thing, and people will still push the whole idea of, you gotta get the doom spell because you'll kill grandma. And
I mean, I love grandma, but really, fuck her. Fuck grandma. And you know what? I'm wondering, respectfully, I wonder if Grandma would agree. I wonder if Grandma would say, "Listen, Bubby, I've had a full, long life. Yours is just beginning. You know what? I will take precautions here. I will isolate. I will, do what I need to do to protect me. But I'm willing to make those sacrifices so that you, young person, can have your life, because you need to get busy on getting ready to be productive and to, in time, form a family, get a house, whatever it is that you're going to do, you know?"
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I wonder how many grandmas would say, meh, I'll take care of me. I'll do the best I can, but go forth, young man, young woman. You gotta set up for your life.
Yeah. I mean, how else are your kids going to be able to take care of you when they're older if they can't take care of themselves?
This is the silent generation. This is the World War II generation. Some boomers, with variable quality, But yeah, I wonder how many would take that view. And I would imagine that if you ask them, not a small number would take that view. Now, I don't presume to be a mind reader here. I don't know.
I do. No.
Charles, you're such a bad man.
I am a bad man. I'm a horrible human being. Don't any of you ever forget that.
That's part of your charm for me. I don't know. Maybe it's because I myself am a bad person. And you know what? I'm happy to own up to it. But, results don't lie, so go suck my dick.
But that brings us to the main topic, which is...
Oh, this isn't it?
No, the main topic is healthcare.
Oh, that.
Yeah, that simple topic. I mean, it's so easy. Healthcare is a thing. Bye, everybody.
Is this working? Is this working? That just you and me? I mean, I'm missing Gregory, but...
I don't know. It depends on how much you like Gregory.
I like him a lot.
I like him too when he's not here. I mean...
Oh! Gregory, I miss you.
I miss you too. That item I threw at you before was way off target. But so healthcare, right? And so hold on. I had some things punched up on this topic.
The things. Where are the things, fucking Charles?
So we have Romney Care, right? That was the thing, and which made it everybody required to get health care. But even if you're going to buy insurance and whatnot, so the first question is what person that makes minimum wage can really afford health care and still be able to live?
Realistically, most people experience some level of health care.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you have to go to an emergency room, and if truly you don't have the funds to pay, the hospital sources those funds from other sources,
Sometimes.
including the premiums of people who do pay into the system.
Sometimes. You do have people that don't have insurance, they go to the hospital, and now they're sacked with debt for the rest of their life.
Yes, and that is not okay.
Right. I mean, and it's not only the people that work minimum wage, but also like small business owners, right? How can a small business owner, somebody that has like the show, right? The show is operated by a small business. How can we afford to pay for health care?
Oh shit! You mean I'm not getting health care from this?
No, you're not.
Fuck me.
How can small business owners, if like somebody owns a convenience store or whatnot, like this a single family owned store or whatever, how are they going to be able to provide a healthcare plan for their employees?
But here's the thing: the healthcare plan looks at the old healthcare, your granddaddy's healthcare. Biden just reversed the executive order that Trump put in to allow telemedicine across state lines.
Right.
Telemedicine makes healthcare so much more accessible, so much easier and cheaper to operate. More people ought to be able to get healthcare through cheaper means, through the use of technology such as that. Imagine a world where you can visit your doctor, telehealth. Okay, you need to take a test. You get your ass down to the local Quest Diagnostics, right? They conduct the test that way. And, there's got to be cheaper models and adaptations like permitting telemedicine across state lines and other technological systems and processes to make healthcare less expensive.
Well,
we have the tools. It is a design issue. So for those to assert, oh my God, we need to rewrite everything, socialize everything. It's like, wait a minute. Are we are we really looking at models that are modernized, that account for what we are now able to do?
Well, that was the thing, right? The Koch Foundation uh, funded research into what socialized medicine would do, and then they discovered it would wind up being cheaper for everybody. If you pay in a tax like a Social Security tax, and then everybody got
Oh,
healthcare from that.
the problem with the Social Security solutions is that then these funds are raided by governmental bodies during times of fiscal expediency. Okay. What I
Okay.
find attractive is the idea of for like the normal preventative medicine, broken leg type emergency.
Hmm.
I find attractive the model of a subscription where you're a member of a subscriber base. And for the normal stuff, the subscription covers healthcare for you and those members in your family who are part of the subscription, and you get care for all the normal stuff. And the insurance is reserved for like the really far out, more expensive stuff. I don't know about the more chronic stuff like diabetes, how that would work out. I gotta think, the Trump administration had been making a lot of progress towards cheapening pharmaceuticals by forcing pharmaceutical companies to offer most favored rates for prescriptions for Americans sitting here in this country
Hmm.
rather than every other country. So I think that there's a lot that can be done there by the models and recentering on who should be the customer. And the customer should be us, not these whorish insurance companies that are shelling us out like meat to collect money.
Well, that's the thing, right? Because you mentioned insurance companies, right?
Yeah.
Now, the insurance company model is to have a whole group of people where the healthy people pay in the premiums and they don't have issues so often, but they wind up paying for the people that need the insurance more often. So, how is that any different, really, if we had a completely national socialized
It would be
healthcare?
same difference. You're just transferring the power
Exactly.
further into the hands of government, which is like the worst possible fucking thing to do.
All right, why is that?
Look, right now, the government is engaging in preferential treatment to drive an ideology. It just is.
Well,
The
insurance
last thing
companies.
I want to do
Hold on,
is
let me interrupt
empower
you
the
there for a
government
second.
even more.
Let me interrupt you there for a second, Red, because insurance companies at the same time are engaging in preferential treatment for what makes them profit. So when you get to the bare nuts of it, how is it any different?
Well, that's why I'd like to get the insurance companies largely out of like the regular bread and potatoes
Okay, so if the
issues of
insurance companies
healthcare,
aren't going to
and
take
then
care of it.
focus the insurance on dealing with the more catastrophic, longer term stuff. And insurance, like the stock market, is basically a legalized gambling game. The insurance company is betting that it's not going to have to pay out for you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and you're betting that in the event something really big happens, that the insurance company will pay out. It's a legalized form of gambling.
Yeah, I mean that's true. At the same time, though, I've seen people who they had medical issues, they couldn't pay for it, so they had to get an insurance company to pay for the medical issues. And I will say that at the same time.
In the event the insurance company didn't weasel its way out of paying for
Well,
issues.
I will say that's not the whole point of insurance. The whole point of insurance is you have it in case something goes wrong, but you have these people that are allowed, right? There's a whole pre-existing conditions thing. They're allowed to get insurance when you already know something's going to go wrong. That's not really insurance. So I will make that semantic argument. But at the same time, going on the other side is that you have these private institutions, these insurance companies that don't want to pay out for the things that they're supposed to pay out for, and that was like a whole thing in the late '90s, early aughts. So, I go back to the question of what really is the difference when you have one group of people who are not going to pay out for one reason, another group of people are not going to pay out for another reason.
Well, that's what actuaries are for. Part of what actuaries do is that they examine a whole lot of deep statistics to
Right.
figure out, well, what are the risks per population and define those populations. And the heavier risk populations would pay heavier premiums than the not as much at risk populations. That happens right now with health insurance. That happens right now with car insurance. It's not a model with which we are not familiar. What a lot of these asserted reforms have to do is to basically form, as you described, Charles, a system under which the people who are not as much as risk is covering the nut for the more at-risk population.
Yeah, and again, I go back to my question.
It's a redistributionist model.
Right, I go back to my question is, what is really the difference when you have one group of people who are denying others health care for one reason versus another group of people that are denying people health care for another reason, outside of one being cheaper, right?
Well,
that's the only difference.
There's
really,
the issue of accountability and visibility. It would need to be part of any derived solution. And then there's the consideration of who is the customer and who is the product. The way that our system is set up now, we're the product. When we go to a doctor's office, is there a menu that lists, okay, this service costs this much, this service? Frequently, you don't even know because you're not even the customer in mind. If that were more transparent and we were able to shop across practitioners for you're charging what for an MRI? Nah, fuck that. I'm going to go shop around and find a better deal out there. And I can do so under a model where I can confer with a physician through telemedicine. I'll get my MRI taken cheaply here, have an AI filter determine which are the more difficult to identify cases, which cases are more normal, and for the stuff that really merits it, then you have a diagnostician actually look at it instead of these bullshit nurse practitioners who are not quite good enough to be a doctor people.
I don't know if I would go that far as far as nurse practitioners.
There's been great variability that I've experienced.
Yeah.
There's some terrific people out there who are thoughtful and capable, and then there's a whole bunch of, I don't know how far to go and call these people, but they're very pseudo. Let's just put it gently.
Because here's my thing, right? I've worked in the past, had insurance, had healthcare under insurance.
Yeah.
I'm disabled now. I get what basically is socialized medicine.
Yeah.
Through the VA. As a patient, I don't see a difference, really. I don't see a difference. The only difference is that one, I'm paying less out of pocket for.
Yeah, because there was a cost to that. Ordinarily, people who are going to the VA have enlisted, have served, and experienced some injury as a result of that service.
Right, but
I mean, that's different. We need to treat our vets better then.
One I'm paying for with federal taxes, and the other one I'm paying on top of federal taxes so that somebody else can make a profit. So what really, and we talk about accountability and whatnot, and this is the whole thing of when you have, because there's arguments, and this is going to be more for a future topic that I already have laid out, is the whole argument of how much accountability are you getting through through an institution that's not the governing body versus the institution that is the governing body, right? Because who's accountable to who, and so forth and so on.
Okay.
So I'll break it down. When we get to the episode, I'll break it down more for you, and you'll see where the logic is going with that. But you have this situation, right? So here was the narrative for the longest time. Well, you go to school, you get a good job, and then you can afford to have health care and so forth. Well, a whole bunch of people went to school because there was these programs that allowed them to go to school. Now they have
building debt along the way.
Yeah, now they have student debt,
and not always producing something of value.
Well, the thing is now I'm more likely to have my order gotten wrong by someone with a degree than someone without a degree.
Yeah.
So, but at the same time, these people did go to school, right? So that whole narrative of going to school.
So what?
Well,
so what? If you got a comparative dance degree, you went into debt for that. First of all, you're stupid. I mean, how many comparative dance degree people does society really need? Does there need to be a major course of study for this bullshit? So just because you went to school doesn't mean that you are necessarily of value.
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't mean that your value as an individual ceases to be. That's not at all what I'm talking about. But what is the value of that in being productive and generating a benefit for yourself and others in society?
But I'm glad you pointed that out, Red, because one thing I wanted to point out is how that narrative kind of changed. Because it used to be, oh, well, if you go to school and you get a decent job, then you'll be able to afford healthcare. Now it's, you went to school, you still have a shitty job, so obviously there's nothing of value to you.
Yeah. I mean, that's young people and other people who went to school getting cheated because the government created a safety for banks to give out loans for whatever BS degree you wanted to get. Oh, a comparative feminist studies degree?
Well, I wouldn't say the BS degrees weren't from the government. I would say that's from the colleges themselves.
And the market got flooded with all sorts of people with all sorts of bogus degrees.
Yeah, I would say that's from the colleges themselves, not the government.
Exactly. So whenever a government inserts itself into an industry, it creates this devaluing bubble issue in every fucking industry it enters. And this is why I experience great internal resistance at the notion of government-provided health care.
Okay, so
I know too many Canadians who come south of the border to get that MRI because they just can't wait another 3 months to get an appointment because they're in pain right now. Brits who cross the pond for the purpose of getting that treatment that they cannot get at the super basic healthcare system that they have over in England and the remainder of the kingdom.
So, all right. So there's a couple of things I can unpack from that. One, because you talk about the government getting into things.
Government ruins everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Starve it.
First off, you made that assertion without making any ties from one to the other. There's, you put a non sequitur in there.
I thought this show was called Non Sequitur.
Oh, okay.
Oh shit! Is that the other show?
The second thing I wanted to point out.
Oh, that's my new name, Non Sequitur. Do you like that?
The second thing I wanted to point out is that at the same time you have some people that will go over to Canada for emergency stuff.
I've never met those people. I know this is anecdotal.
That's because they're politicians. That's why. But the third thing too is this whole narrative. Right, this whole narrative of socialized medicine being a failure winds up getting promoted by people that will strip money or funding from socialized narrative just as a way to vote in privatized medicine. I mean, it's that's...
Yeah, to your point, Charles, there's more than one way to build a system to bilk people, no doubts. And transparency, accountability, and not having government in charge are some pretty basic pillars. Now, there's more than one way to get there, but for me, show me those pillars.
But I completely forgot what I was going to say now.
I was so compelling.
It's the most compelling thought ever, I'm sure. As I chew and a cough drop, which you're only supposed to stuck on. But, well, no, I mean, this whole thing of, like when we talk about the colleges and whatnot, the colleges, I mean, the government didn't tell the colleges to make these degrees. The colleges
decided, hey, we can make these degrees because there are people willing to go for these courses of study and still get student loans for them.
Right,
and they're federally guaranteed.
Right.
I mean, win-win-win.
Right. So how much of that also is, people buying into that, or them being, for lack of a better term, capitalistic, seeing, oh, people want this, let's make this, right?
That is, yes, there's elements of capitalism there, but that's crony capitalism. That's like the human centipede, man.
I wouldn't call it crony capitalism. I was just saying, hey, people want to spend money on this,
And the government is willing to back up the risk. Okay, sign me up.
But so here's the thing, right? Because we even with all these people that have made poor decisions in life, especially with their education, and you can't just like blame them.
And people who got ripped off.
Yeah, I mean a lot.
Okay.
Let's face it, because you have a lot of narratives that just rip people prepare people to be ripped off.
Yes.
Right? All these different narratives we have in society.
In high school, college.
Right.
The only thing really talked about is the only worthy next path for you.
Yeah, you have all these narratives, that just prepare people to be ripped off through society, and and we talk about this as a healthcare. Again, going to the whole idea of you go to college, you get a good job, and then you be able to afford healthcare. But and the whole idea of things being a pyramid, which I will for this instance show as a pyramid. How if of all these people that can't get into that level, right? We'll say that level that can't or that is able to afford healthcare, right? For all these people that can't get to that level, how much are you just letting the foundation just die out, right? So
Are you asking me my personal opinion,
no,
or
I'm
are
just
you
talking about-
rhetorically asking it?
Well, I just ask these questions in general. If you've got a response, you've got a response. That's fine.
Well, I don't have answers, but I do have reactions. And it seems to me, look, there's at least 20% of the population that just can't. Okay? They just can't. It seems to me not optimal for us as a society, as a nation, to just let these ne'er-do-wells rot in the streets and suffer. That's sort of, in part, what's going on with the homeless situation, right? So that doesn't seem right. But to also have a system that supports a perpetually dependent, multi-generational welfare class also is not acceptable, right? We need to have a system that is prepared to say no much more often, but still offer a safety net to that 15-20% who simply cannot. Now, the hard part is, how do you tell who's in what group? And what about the marginal cases?
Right.
If I were just a little bit dumber, I'd be able to weasel into the 20% and coast.
Yeah, I mean, you have the 90-10 rule or 80-20 rule, whatever you want
That's
to
a
call it.
Pareto distribution.
But so I look at it from like a logistics standpoint, which is because the people that aren't in the positions where they can afford health care, as is, and whatnot. Well, these people are also consumers, but these people are also people that do the jobs that nobody likes to do. Right?
Not always, but
well, and most of the time they are. And we can talk about that we become a consumer-based economy, and there's all these restaurants and like all these retail and restaurants and everything, and nothing's really produced here. Yeah, that's a legitimate argument, but that has nothing to do with the people that don't have the money to all of a sudden start a steel mill.
Can I just turn things around a little bit to an earlier portion of the conversation?
Sure.
The fact that a portion of our manufacturing is not domestic, right?
Yeah.
That is a national security issue.
It's also
and a strong economy is a compelling national security consideration, right? We do need to make domestic again a portion of this manufacturing, not just for the security of, say, controlling our own pharmaceuticals and so on, but also we need to have employment opportunities for those people who are, not ready to be brain surgeons, because face it, not everybody is born with that aptitude.
No, I
Period.
agree.
It is not true, dear child, that you can be whatever you imagine yourself to be, because there's some pretty hard limits on, sorry people, there's variable IQ potential, there's variable ability, there's variable diligence and productiveness, and not everybody's going to be able to cut that mustard. Sorry, friends.
Yeah, and if you're stupid like me, you better spend as many years as I did making up for it.
And there's no honor lost in any job done well. And, this is like the Mike Rowe thesis, right?
Right, and you talk about...
By the way, Mike Rowe, if you're out there, you're hot AF. I love how you think. Blowjob, hit me up. Woo! Hell yeah.
But this is the one thing too where right, going and bringing it back to like the healthcare thing, is that if you don't have people, right, even in like these even in manufacturing jobs and whatnot, then the manufacturing jobs can't get filled, and then things start to collapse. I mean, what we see right now, the result of all the fucking idiotic lockdowns and shit, you're seeing the result of all these people lost their jobs because the economy got locked down, And now there's not enough of things, and prices are getting inflated and so forth. And this is the same thing that happens when you just don't even take care of your population from a logistics standpoint. Do you understand where I'm getting at, Red?
I'm waiting for you to tie it together. I'm really listening to you.
Well, what I'm saying is that...
And I'm not saying that as a diss. I just wanted to hear you out.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people will say, you need to earn your right for health care and whatnot. And this is kind of going on with what you said before. But at the same time, too, it's the idea where you have to be able to take care of yourself, even the weak parts of yourself, right? Like, the self-sustaining individual is the person that winds up being the best to adapt to anything, right? So you have to take care of yourself properly when you get sick, and do this stuff to like I got a shitload of time I got to spend on maintaining my body, but you can relate that to a society, because what is society if not, like, in some form a collective, maybe not operating as a collective, but at the same time operating a collective, just because of the way things...
It's a system that has to take care of its various components through its value system, through its governmental and social institutions, through the tools of the economy, through its judicial system. It's a very complex machine.
And there's this thing that I always explain about, and primarily to students and whatnot. I call it the tetrahedron of existence.
Oh, sounds very deep.
I know. Tetrahedron for you gamers is a D4, but it's a pyramid with 3 bases, and the reason why I call it the tetrahedron of existence is because you can relate everything to this, because the top is where you at. The tetrahedron of existence exists in the world of high winds, or the fierce storms of life, to quote Elizabeth Cady Stanton. But the 3 bases are the different basic aspects of life: growth, maintenance, and reproduction. And if you advance in only 1 or 2 of those, you're going to find yourself with a pillar that gets knocked over easily in the fierce storms of life. You have to take care of all 3 of those, including the maintenance, which is not something a lot of people like to do, to not get knocked on your ass. And the healthcare of the population is, in fact, a maintenance aspect.
Mm-hmm. I see your point.
So...
Yeah, so I'm sorry, I don't disagree.
Yeah,
so
okay.
Can we move on to the next thing?
Oh, that's all I had on that.
Oh, okay. That was efficient.
So that's why. So when we talk about, like, healthcare, right? And like healthcare for all and this kind of, or Medicare for all and so forth. I will say that I have a problem with the Medicare for all plan. And it's not what
one?
But it's not what people think it would be. My problem with the Medicare for All plan is, like, now, a lot of people want to be able to pay for things. That doesn't necessarily mean that it can't exist. But I drive around the state and I see 3 letters over and over again, and those are RWJ, Robert Wood Johnson, right? You have these hospitals that grow and grow and grow, so they basically become indistinguishable from a government. My thing with the Medicare for All plan, a Medicare for All plan, would to be use federal funding to reimburse municipalities for municipal-owned clinics and hospitals. That's the difference from the Medicare for All plan that I would make.
Oh, God. Government ruins everything.
People ruin everything.
Well, what do you think government's made of?
Mm-hmm. But so are corporations. So
agreed,
you're fucked whether you do or you don't.
But they're different accountabilities, and they're different levers, and there is a risk of corporations becoming more powerful and more controlling than government. Oh God, this is why the anti-globalist swing is. It's please keep on swinging.
Don't say you're anti-globalist. You'll be considered a domestic terrorist.
Suck my dick. So, suck my trans dick, Charles. It's a very nice trans dick.
Is it translucent?
No, it glows in the dark, so you can like see it.
Oh, that means
You can see its strobe when you're honking it.
Actually, that has to be translucent just because of the way of glowing in the dark material
No,
works.
it could be bioluminescent. What I want is one that strobes in different colors. I don't know.
Yeah, how about anal beads that strobe in different colors?
I'm not so much into those.
Would they be covered by your health care plan?
I don't want anal. I'm so grossed out. And for all you into anal people, I don't have anything against you, but like live and let live. Just do it somewhere else.
Highway.
Just go somewhere else, buddies. Love you lots. Just keep me out of it.
Or keep out of me.
Oh God. How quickly we devolve.
That's hey. Sometimes one step backwards is 2 steps forwards.
Or whatever.
But
So have we resolved healthcare?
I don't know. Have we?
I doubt it.
Is there anything else you want to add?
Just that it's fucking complicated, and it's going to require grown-up solutions because there is no
I need an adult.
There is no perfect solution. There are going to be costs which way to go. The question is, what costs are we willing to pay? What pains are we willing to live with as a society to wend our way through this? And no, we will not be able to capture everything and everyone. So the question that arises is, how do we... I don't even think we're thinking about this creatively enough.
Yeah,
Everybody's thinking about it in terms of like the healthcare we have today, which is woefully out-fucking-dated. And the Biden administration then turns around and says, okay, well, we can do away with permitting doctors engaging in cross-state telemedicine. It's like that's exactly the wrong kind of think it is.
Well,
that is the most conservative bullshit thinking in the history of ever, and these are the Democrats for you.
I wouldn't go that far because I can see a point to be made against telehealth. I mean, I've had to do telehealth because
it's got its limits, but why not use it for what it can do?
Well, yeah, but at the same time, then there's a whole question of malpractice suits and whatnot.
Oh, you can sort that shit out.
That's
details.
afterwards.
That's operational details. You can sort that shit out.
Oh yeah.
And whatever deficiencies there are, boom, boom, boom. A couple of lawsuits,
I thought
lessons learned. Okay.
I thought the conservative idea was to hash out all the details before you move forward.
Look, you need to hash out how you're going to build it and how you're going to pay for it. Whatever solution you devise is going to have deficiencies. Those will come to light, and those deficiencies in part will be vetted by the courts under our judicial system. And oh wow, look at that colossal multi-billion-dollar fuck up. Better not do that again. Okay, let's rethink this. What went wrong? What are the gaps? Okay, here we go.
I see less and less distinction between those that call themselves conservatives and liberals.
Well, it depends how you define the terms. Right now, the conservatives are these crazy, fuck-up, wokest Democrats. Those are the conservatives. People like me are the fucking counterculture because that's punk.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what this whole show is, counterculture.
Oh, speaking of punk.
Oh, right.
Yeah, we were watching Judge Dredd yesterday because, fuck yeah, that's fun. I'm the law. I'm the law.
I am the law.
And it just cracked me up how they were like punks in the crowds with like big fucking mohawks. I love that. Punk is forever. Johnny Lydon, you're the shit.
I saw the Ramones live.
Me too.
Did you? Where at?
I think it may have been CBGB's.
I
Or
saw
some
them,
fuck-up little West Village. No, it was an East Village place.
I saw them
I don't even know
live
where the fuck I was. I was just following other people.
at the Stone Pony, and I believe it was 96 or 97, one of the two.
Oh my god.
And they blew out, they tripped the circuit breaker like 3 times before they actually got the concert going.
Well, that's what you want.
Couldn't hear for the next day. Because,
Yeah, I would not give head to any of the Ramones guys. They're kind of grotty.
Sorry.
But, no, just hard to pass. No, one of my favorite quotes is actually from Johnny Lydon. Something to the tune of, if I had known how much money there was to be made from buying and selling real estate, I never would have advocated burning houses down.
All right, I guess we can leave it on that one for the episode. And make sure to check out our next episode, which will be 28. And it's titled Fading Ink, which is one of Greg's episodes. So tune into that or not, fuck you either way.
I love you. I do.
I don't love you.
I do. See, this is why we need this yin and yang bullshit.
There's no love on this side of the camera. I am a devout misanthrope. Remember to find us on Locals, BitChute, Minds, and Rumble. Oh, by the way, we're not uploading our main videos to Minds anymore because apparently you have to pay for the services in order to upload more than 20-minute long videos. But we will still upload any alt-tech extras we have on there. But with that said, once again, I'm not Greg. I am Charles. Remember to never question, never to ask for proof, and always believe what you're told by the news and the politicians, no matter what. Now, go back to sleep, fuckers.
Good night, fellow human. You'll wake up tomorrow to cause more destruction and bring much more sorrow. You'll go out and smile and pretend you are good, but once you get crossed, you'll don a black hood. You'll maim and you'll rend all while you pretend that you are some kind of hero. You can't face the truth and you'll stay aloof to the fact that you're a zero. You'll sit and stay glued to a spoon-feeding tube so that you can believe you're the best. You'll obey and be bribed by a campaigner's lies. All throughout the COVID Murder Fest. I hate you all.